What's going on, everybody? Back at it here with another New York Giants video. And in this video, reality has set in as I am recapping the Giants' first loss of the 2022 NFL season as they were defeated by the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football 23-16. And before I dive into this game and give my key takeaways, folks, make sure to go check out the channel on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Big Blue Avenue. Appreciate all the support over this past year or so now. And I'm very excited to talk about this game. Not that I'm excited to talk about a loss, but there are a lot of takeaways from this football game between the Giants and the Cowboys. First off, shout out to all 7 members who were inducted into the Giants Ring of Honor: Jimmy Patton, Kyle Rote, Leonard Marshall, O.J. Anderson, Joe Morris, Rodney Hampton, and then Ronnie Barnes. So that was awesome. And obviously it was an all-white out, and fortunately the Cowboys fans just made their presence known. You know, Dallas wins their 7th straight game against the NFC East. They improved to 2-1 on the year with Cooper Rush at quarterback. Giants dropped to 2-1. The biggest thing about this game was obviously Sterling Shepard's non-contact injury, which turned out to be a torn ACL, which I'll get to in just a little bit. No Leonard Williams, and it showed. Missed his first career NFL game in his 8th year in the league, which is absolutely insane. That he's pretty much started ever since entering the league. Tony Pollard had 105 rushing yards on 13 carries. I don't think that happens if Leonard Williams is in the game. I know Nick Williams started for him. We saw Henry Mondeau elevated from the practice squad. Again, the Giants were not able to win many battles in the trenches last night, and it showed. Zeke also had a nice run in that game, 73 rushing yards and a touchdown for him. Cooper Rush is now 3-0 as the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback, which is also concerning for Giants fans. Now, first half was quiet. It was very low scoring. Not many points were scored. Gano had a field goal blocked early on in that game, and Dallas was leading 6-3 at the half. But then the Giants would score 10 unanswered to go up 13-6 in that third quarter after a 36-yard touchdown run by Saquon Barkley. And then Dallas ended the game scoring 17 unanswered. That put them ahead 23-13. Now, biggest key takeaway for me in this game is the offensive struggles. The offense scored. They did not enter the red zone once all night. Not once. And I think a big part of it was the fact that the offensive line looked absolutely horrible. Everybody outside of Andrew Thomas. Daniel Jones played his ass off. This is one week where you're not allowed to say any critique about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones deserves a lot of credit for the way he played in this game. He's beginning to look like a QB number 1 with the way he played last night. He was getting hit so many times. This is the most pressure he's faced in a game throughout his entire 3+ year NFL career. 25 pressures on 30+ dropbacks. That is unacceptable. That's the most he's ever seen. And, you know, he really wasn't bad. If you put the stats together, 196 yards through the air. Now you look at that from the surface and say, well, that's not so great. He completed 20 of 37, but with what he was dealing with, it was very impressive. And tack on those 79 rushing yards. The Giants' best offense all night was either Barkley taking off or Jones taking off. Jones had 79 rushing yards and I believe 9 carries. So if you do the math right there, Daniel Jones did account for almost 300 total yards of offense for the Giants. I think the exact number is 276 or 275. And granted, he was also sacked 5 times. This needs to change. Daniel Jones has been sacked 13 times in the first 3 games of the season. Evan Neal, first-round pick at right tackle, essentially gave up 3 sacks last night. So obviously not a good sign. Mark Lewinsky fell on his rear end at one point. And then the left guard position, it was mostly Ben Bredesen in there, and rightfully so, because Josh Azudu is not a good pass pro. Ben Bredesen is much improved in that category than Azudu. So, again, he still wasn't good either, but at least Jones may be out for the next several weeks if we didn't have Ben Bredesen in there at left guard, in my opinion. Now, another key takeaway And again, you have to start thinking about this. I went live last night on IG with Hank, and we were talking about this. Could Kenny Golladay be the worst free agent signing in New York Giants history? Now, I know there's a lot up there. You have Nate Solder. You have LeVar Arrington, right? I think Galladay's worse than both because at least Nate Solder was a captain for 2 years and helped protect Eli Manning to a degree. And at least LeVar Arrington made an impact for, of course, a very, very short amount of time. But Kenny Golladay hasn't caught a touchdown since being here. He hasn't looked like a good wide receiver since week 1 of last season, where he had 4 catches for 64 yards against the Denver Broncos. And the costly drop by Golladay that could have helped the Giants get deep into Dallas territory. That really hurt this football team. He did have 1 catch that was wiped away due to a Sterling Shepard offensive pass interference, which is an absolute travesty. That was Shepard running a route. Totally not pass interference there. Again, the officials on the broadcast that were talking to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were even saying that that was not a flag. Granted, it doesn't take away from the Giants' struggles whatsoever. But the real struggle now is what happens at receiving corps. Golladay, clearly not the answer at number 1. Sterling Shepard out for the season, unfortunately, with a torn ACL with just 1 minute and 11 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. He tore his ACL on the final offensive snap, the same play where David Sills V fell down on a route that led to Daniel Jones's first interception of the night. It sucks. You know, he was doing good. He led the team with 5 catches for 49 yards, a game where other players really couldn't get going. The next best receivers for the Giants were Daniel Bellinger, the rookie tight end, who had 4 catches for 40 yards, and then Richie James, 4 catches for 36 yards, who I think is going to be even more of an important factor now with Shepard being out for the season. But my next question is this. Did Sterling Shepard play his final game as a Giant? 7th year in the league. He's been around since 2016, last year of his deal. I think the writing's on the wall. We've seen it throughout 7 seasons. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Sterling Shepard can't stay healthy. He can't stay on a football field for a full season, full slate of games. And I love the guy. He's an Energizer bunny. He'll be there supporting his teammates, for the rest of the season from the side. But there's nothing like not having Sterling Shepard out there on the field. And I think the turf at MetLife Stadium has been awful. It's been talked about since before the NFL players and before the NFL coaching staffs have started to bring this to the league's attention. This has been discussed for a very long time. Why can't, teams just play on grass? And, it's a shame, especially at MetLife Stadium. The turf management is horrible there. That could have ultimately ended Sterling Shepard's career as a New York Football Giant. I expect Sterling Shepard to suit up in a different uniform next season unless he loves this team so much and he agrees to stay on like a 1-year vet minimum type of deal because, again, you don't know what his health is going to be. But we've seen the Giants move on from players that have had significant injuries the previous season, most recently Blake Martinez. Not the same coming off a torn ACL. We saw it with Ryan Connolly back in 2020. So I'm very unfortunate for Shep. I love the guy. Going to miss him this season and, sending all my best wishes to Shepard. And we'll miss you out there. We're going to miss him out there for sure. People have talked about who could potentially fill in for Sterling Shepard, as in who replaces his roster spot. People have asked me on Twitter all day, are they going to bring back Alex Bachman? Are they going to bring back Bachman? That is very, very unlikely. Bachman was offered a practice squad spot by the Giants and declined. It's very unlikely that they're going to give him a contract that translates into him being immediately on the 53-man roster. That's just not going to happen. Bachman was down at the Wake Forest game this weekend. I don't think he's coming back to New York. Sad to say, but it's the reality of the situation. The team wanted to go. in a different direction with the roster. Bachman wanted to go in a different direction. He either wanted to make the roster or nothing. The other option is Cole Beasley. I think he's out of the discussion too. He's currently on the Bucs practice squad. In order to sign him off the Bucs practice squad, it's going to cost more money than what the Giants can really afford. So is it worth it? Absolutely not. The offense is in shambles right now. I think you're looking at your own roster. You're looking at Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson to hopefully both come back from injury to pair along with David Sills and Richie James. Those are the top 4 receivers on this team right now. I'm not even going to include Kenny Golladay and Darius Slayton in this discussion. They're still on the roster, but clearly the 4 most used receivers this year are going to be Toney, Sills, James, and Robinson. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see. Anything else on the offense? I think I pretty much covered the basis of it all. The line really struggled. The receivers are not good. Before I move on to the defense, folks, I want to remind you all that this episode of Big Blue Avenue is presented by our sponsor, BetUS. That's America's #1 favorite sports book. You can sign up with our promo code below at Join125. Get a 125% sign-up bonus. You can bet on the go, anywhere, anytime, from your mobile device. That's BetUS, where the game begins. Make sure to go check out BetUS if you love your sports betting. So, moving on to the defense, and the big key of the night was not having Leonard Williams. As I mentioned earlier in this video, first time he's missed a start in his 8-year NFL career. The defense applied no pressure up front. Cooper Rush was not under duress. Dallas was able to win the game running the football, setting up the play action pass for Coop. Secondary was soft, as I said. Kayvon Thibodeau did make his NFL debut last night. Those are his stats right there. He had 1 pass defended and 1 tackle. Again, limited basis. You can't really frame this one on him. Same thing goes for Azeez Ojulari, who made his season debut last night. Both of those guys played on a limited basis. So hopefully within the coming weeks, Thibodeau and Ojulari get more involved in the offense. But another takeaway for me is Tay Crowder. Tay Crowder has let that hit to Derrick Henry really get to his head. I mean, there was an instance with the goal line situation last night with the previous play. He whacked down the running back nicely, or the receiver that was. I think Noah Brown might have caught the pass, and Crowder took him down at around the 1 or 2 yard line. And then the next play, Zeke scores because Crowder goes in for a big hit yet again, rather than wrapping the guy up. Now, yeah, there's a chance Zeke still scores if Crowder does attempt to wrap him up, but at least attempt. Don't just try to level him. It's not going to work all the time. So the linebackers are a big concern. The secondary was targeted often. Adoree Jackson in particular gave up that one-handed touchdown catch to CeeDee Lamb. Lamb had 4 catches for 89. He had 4 catches on that 89-yard drive by Dallas, which was pathetic in my opinion. And Lamb on the night finished with 8 catches for 87 yards and 1 touchdown, a night that Dallas did not have the luxury of their tight end, Dalton Schultz, who was out with an injury. So they were left with a couple of rookies. 4th-round pick Jake Ferguson and another rookie in Peyton Hendershot. And both of these guys made contributions. Hendershot caught a couple of passes. Ferguson caught 1 or 2 as well and was a good first-level run blocker for Dallas last night. And when I look at the Giants, when you get 0 sacks against an offensive line that does not have a good center in Biadasz, Terrence Steele starting at right, Tyler Smith starting at left. That's not the best tackle pairing. And Matt Farniok really struggled at left guard. In fact, he was replaced by Jason Peters, the 41-year-old, wherever he is now, in there at left guard. So, they couldn't take advantage of Dallas's weak offensive line, having their backup quarterback in the game. Michael Gallup really didn't play as well. There's no excuse why the Giants performed this poorly on defense, especially when your safety, Julian Love, is getting 14 tackles per game. That should tell you something, right? You're not doing a great job defensively, and a lot of people want to blame Wink and say this is why he got fired in Baltimore. You can't say that 3 games into the season. Why? Because the Giants have a high blitz frequency now. That means the Giants are going to give up a big play or two here and there. That's okay as long as you're getting pressure more often than not and then not allowing teams to score many points. I think when you don't get to the quarterback, that is a huge level of concern. And remember, this defense was without Leonard Williams last night. This is the first year in a new defensive scheme. Guys are still learning. Just because they look good the first 2 weeks doesn't mean they're going to look good every single game, folks. Hell, they played the Tennessee Titans and the Carolina Panthers. They're going up against the Dallas Cowboys, a team that has weapons offensively. And Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, like it or not, they're still a good football team. Special teams struggle outside of Graham Gano, of course. I thought the special teams didn't look great. Turbin had a great punt return where Jamie Gillen had to save a touchdown. Gano had a field goal blocked. Although Gano was spectacular again. He was the one bright spot. He hit 3 field goals, 2 51-yarders, and I believe the other was a 42-yarder. So shout out Graham Gano for essentially keeping the Giants in this game. And on that last drive, Daniel Jones does enough to get the Giants in striking distance when they're down by 10 to get them the field goal. So then at that point, they were down 23-16. The defense does their job, gives the offense the ball back. Daniel Jones throws an interception on a route where David Sills fell down. So you can't fully blame the pick on Daniel Jones either. It's very unfortunate that it went down this way, but the real turning point, DeMarcus Lawrence had 3 sacks. And I know he left in the third quarter with an injured foot, but Evan Neal has to play better and protect Daniel Jones. DeMarcus Lawrence has owned the Giants since entering the NFL, has 10 career sacks in 14 games against Big Blue. I thought Donovan Wilson was pretty good too, despite the one penalty he had on that catch by Myrick. Trayvon Diggs had the game-clinching interception, and each team had 8 penalties. So there's a lot of miscues, fundamentally speaking, right? Because there was only 1 turnover the entire game, and that turnover probably should not have even have happened. So we'll see what happens. But nevertheless, Dallas continues to dominate the NFC East. They improved to 2-1. The Giants fall to 2-1, so now they have the same record, each a game behind the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants were one of 3 final teams to remain undefeated. Now there's just 2, Philly and Miami. So shout out to the Giants in a year that, people aren't predicting this team to get a lot of wins. Hell, even after 2-0, I still only upticked us to 8 wins because I had 7 originally. I just wasn't expecting the Tennessee game. So, of course, I'm going to stick with my original projection. But you got to give the coaching staff a lot of credit once again. Brian Daboll did what he could. He was solid. Wink Martindale, not the best game defensively, but you can't throw all the blame on him. Offensively, Mike Kafka's young. He's learning. I thought the play calling was good for the most part. The blocking and the execution was not. So you can't really blame the coaching staff for this loss either. That's my personal opinion. The Giants will get another crack at Dallas on Thanksgiving in the Big D. So we'll see how that pans out. But for now, the Giants are on to Chicago. They wrap up their 3-game homestand. Next Sunday, I'll be in attendance. I'm very excited to preview that game Thursday night on Big Blue Avenue. Our live stream, 7 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. So before I sign off, just want to go over a couple of team transactions that happened today. The Giants have waived running back Antonio Williams and have terminated the contract of outside linebacker Chuck Wiley. So that leaves, with the Shepard injury and the Williams release, that leaves 2 open spots on the Giants' 53-man roster. That could mean openings for Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson to come back from injury. We'll see. We will see what happens. I'm not sure what additions the Giants are going to make this week, but there's going to be some movement around this team and around the whole NFL, that is. But folks, appreciate you all watching this video here, this Week 3 recap of the Giants falling to the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Remember to check us out on all of our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Big Blue Avenue. Appreciate all the support that we've gotten, folks. Stay tuned Thursday night for our brief synopsis of key takeaways from this game, and we will also reveal our New York Giants Player of the Week. but mainly we'll be previewing the upcoming game this Sunday against the Chicago Bears. Finally, without further ado, let's go Big Blue.